debunk, let's debunk. Boom Productions, here we go, bringing you the truth about the paranormal. Not letting the fakers spread lies and junk. Let's investigate and let's debunk. Let's debunk, let's debunk, let's debunk. Boom Productions, shining bright. Fake hauntings just won't survive. Let's seek the truth and get it right, and debunk those lies hidden in the night. Let's debunk, let's debunk. Boom Productions, here we go, bringing you the truth about the paranormal. Not letting the fakers spread lies and junk. Let's investigate and let's debunk. Let's debunk, let's debunk, let's debunk. Boom Productions, shining bright. Fake hauntings just won't survive. Let's seek the truth and get it right, and debunk those lies hidden in the night. Let's debunk, let's debunk. Productions, here we go, bringing you the truth about the paranormal. Not letting the fakers spread lies and junk. Let's investigate and let's debunk. Let's debunk, let's debunk, let's debunk. Productions, shining bright.
Welcome everybody. How's it going? Your volume's on your phone.
Hello.
So let's go through the participants real quick before we announce our guests. So we got Sky Talker, how you doing? Raven, hello. Anita, So Callie Highlander, Sarah Burton, Calandra, Bill is in here. Candy 7 is in here. Nice to see you. Pharaoh Goth Gal, Sarah Burton. You guys always talk a lot before we start, so I'm seeing names twice. So if I miss anybody, I apologize.
Say Raven.
Yes, I said Raven. I think if not, we'll say hi to Raven again because she's here for
The
everything.
Yummy Donut.
Pop is in the house. The Yummy Donut. Devon Zipper. Two-ply. Jamie, love your booty. I can't steal his tagline. That's not nice. Let's see who else. Oh, we got Caroline Saxby here, who is from Australia. We also have Laura's in the house. Two-ply. Glenda Watt. Hello. Firefly Kelly.
I'm shocked you're reading this all so well.
I am too. I'm usually bad at this, really bad at this. Sue Mackey's in the house. How you doing, Sue? Sorry we brought trouble on you this week. If you know, you know. Anita Drake, how's it going? Tammy.
Mom of twins.
Oh, Tammy Mama Twins, how you doing? I missed that one. Sorry. Alyssa, hello. I hope you're out of the hospital. For Christ's sake, you got to get out of that place. Jaya D is in the house.
Anita,
yep, we said hi to her,
Okay.
but it's always okay to say hi to her twice because she's been here from the beginning. Stormy After Dark. She's one of the OGs of the channel. Let's see. Simply Spooky. See, Bill, these guys just all talk amongst themselves because they know sometimes we get distracted from chat. Julianne, good to see you. Simply Spooky. I got to find that participants button that everybody else uses. Okay, we're at the bottom of the chat. Loretta Mooney, hello. So without further ado, this is a show I've wanted to do for a very, very long time. Get an actual mental health professional, such as our guest, Bill Emahiser, and talk about some of the things that we've encountered throughout our years of dealing with residential cases and people searching out for help, because a lot of times we suspect that it's mental health issues. And so if also, guys, this is tied to that live stream, the charity stream that we did, the 12-hour stream. We had designated Unison, which Bill works for, as the recipient of all of your donations. So we got an email, about a month ago?
in December,
Yeah.
like right around Christmas time.
And Bill, was that from you?
Yes.
Yes.
It was.
It's like, yeah, we noticed that a bunch of money came in with your name on it that day. You want to explain to me what's going on?
Yeah, we really, I hopefully it's all right if I hop in here. I really want to thank all of your community here. Thank you, Jeff and Dana, for bringing awareness to mental health. And certainly at Unison, we, where our mission is to make lives better through the quality and compassionate treatment for mental health and addiction issues. And we also work a lot with the homeless community as well. We're really wanting to try to tackle the homelessness issue in our area, and it's becoming a
Yeah.
pretty serious issue right now. So those funds were greatly appreciated. So thank you so much for everyone and for you bringing attention to mental health, because
Yeah.
it's a very stigmatized topic.
Yes. Yep. And it's the thing that upsets me in the United States. So when we were looking for a charity to give donations to, all that popped up on the internet was these lobbyist groups that
Yes.
that don't need the money. So much of that is top heavy funding, and it's like
Yeah.
I don't want to have a group like that. I don't want our people to donate to something that's just going to go to Washington. I just did
Right.
that. So
All those dollars do stay local. That's for sure.
good. Yep. And I know people that have been actually have been to Unison and had to go through
Mhm.
programs and stuff. And you guys do a lot of stuff with court cases and things like that too.
We
correct?
do. Yeah. So we don't, it turns out, we're a nonprofit organization, and we serve really all of Northwest Ohio these days.
Good.
But we do mostly Medicaid billing. So our folks are usually on some kind of Medicaid insurance, public assistance. Like I said, we work a lot with folks who are experiencing homelessness. We work with a lot of folks that are kind of struggling financially, that folks who are working, it's paycheck to paycheck, or folks
Yep.
who may not, be able to work because of impairment due to their mental health issues. And that's primarily who we serve in our area. Now we do have, mental health issues don't discriminate just by, by socioeconomics or by race or by gender or really anything. And so we don't discriminate. We'll see anyone. And it is one of those locations that you can come in if you're experiencing a mental health or an addiction, and we are here to help, and that's what we do. And so it's a good service.
And it is important because in the past, and it's getting a little bit better, but it still isn't where it needs to be. But like if you didn't have money, sorry about your luck.
Right.
Like you're just going to have to suffer with what you go.
Well, and it's even with a lot of insurances, they don't want to cover mental health. I mean,
Right.
I used to have a job, the previous job I was at, they would not cover any type of mental health at all. So it's terrible that your insurance doesn't even want to help you to be better, which in the long run, if your mind's good, then physically you're going to not probably have some of the issues going on.
Right. Yeah. And, I can remember a time, it's very interesting because Medicaid used to be, they used to completely say if you had an addiction or if you had an anxiety disorder, which by the way, anxiety disorder is the most prevalent of the mental health issues, along with depression, trauma, addiction, those things. But addiction and trauma addiction and anxiety when I first started did not qualify under Medicaid. You couldn't, we had to turn people away. They were like, you can't see these folks. And so thankfully things have changed where at least for that particular insurance, they open it up and whatever you come in with, we can usually treat you and help you. And some of the other insurances, if there are folks that are struggling, some of the local mental health boards will pick up the tab too. So depending on their situation. So there are some funds in certain situations that could happen. Is that the famous Boo?
This is the famous Boo. She's
always got to make
treat.
an appearance.
That's awesome.
So yeah, it was like I said, another goal that I've had, and you and I will probably have to talk off air sometime because I'm not going to put you on the spot, like, on air, but I've always wanted to comprise a list of people, like mental health professionals that are willing to do some consultation for like private residential case stuff. Like, let's say somebody comes to me and says, we got this going on. I suspect it's mental health issues. We always video our interviews. So like, I would love to have a network.
But they are not live and shared.
No. But I would love to have a network of people that can look at that and look for
something we might miss.
Look for problems, like, because I can't diagnose anybody. That's not my thing.
And I should probably tell you, you might struggle with that, and here's why. We as licensed professionals, so in the state of Ohio at least, folks that can diagnose and treat mental and emotional disorders are licensed. And so I am not allowed to do any kind of diagnosing unless I actually physically see the person and do a formal assessment. And so, even watching something secondhand would be unethical and illegal for me to do. I could lose my license by doing
Yeah.
so you're probably going to struggle if you're like,
Okay.
hey, could you take a look at this?
Yep.
Because most people are going to say, we are constrained, which makes sense if you think about it. You want to have the person face to face, be able to chat with them, interact with them, and be able to do a thorough assessment with a person.
Could it possibly be like a scenario where, say, like there's a network of people that say, they'll watch maybe a video with an interview and say, yes, you should recommend that this person go talk to somebody. I mean, is that unethical and illegal? Because I know when I worked for the Warren Foundation, or with the Warren Foundation, that was the thing that we struggled with. It's like we were almost told we shouldn't even recommend that people go see a psychiatrist
or go see their doctor,
because we were like, we could get in trouble for that. And we're like, how do you get in trouble for recommending something good to somebody? It just doesn't make sense to me.
Well, and I would suggest to you this, that if you see somebody that you suspect might be struggling with a mental health or addiction issue, is that just ask them straight up, do you feel like you're struggling? And if so, here's a list of resources that you could access. And I would encourage anybody in your community here, if you are experiencing a mental health issue, whether it doesn't have to be a crisis, it could be, I'm just not feeling right. I'm feeling depressed, or I'm having trouble getting out of bed, or I'm extremely anxious. I escape and avoid situations, or I had this traumatic event in my past, and it impacts my ability to function. And I guess I want to kind of dovetail on this. If you have those experiences, reach out and get help wherever you're at. But I would say this
my life right now.
Yeah.
I would say this for an official diagnosis, if you will. Most mental health disorders require a cluster of symptoms plus some kind of impairment. So the folks are, because of these symptoms, and you could probably recognize if, are these things keeping you from being able to work or being able to go to school, or your interpersonal connections, your social connections with other people, is that being interrupted? And if you see that impairment, I would encourage folks to seek help.
Yep. And like I said, we've definitely had so many cases where it's like, man, I really think you need to get checked out. And so we talked about this off camera before we came out. First, I got to thank you guys for giving memberships. Pomp did, Sky Talker did, Sue, I think, had the super chat. We're just going to post them in the bottom because we only get Bill for an hour tonight. Yep. We're going to stay on a little bit longer, but we got Bill for an hour, and we appreciate that.
And so if you do have questions for him, we are not going to open up questions till like the last 30 minutes he's on.
Yep. It's going to be,
and then our Q rule, excuse me, our Q rule will be in effect.
Yeah.
You have to put the little Q. I choked on spit. The capital Q has to be before the question, or I might go past it.
Yep. So yeah, that's what we're doing tonight, guys. So, but anyway, to get back, we were talking about this beforehand. So, what kind of, because you and I, we agreed that, like, if somebody says, "Hey, I saw a shadow figure walk across my room," in their mind, that is absolutely real. And so, I try and tell people, like, I can't tell you that you didn't see that, but I mean, so from the psychological professional, what do you tell people that are seeing things like that? Like, how many people come in and think they have a haunting going on?
Yeah, it's a great question. Specifically a haunting, I don't, over the 30 years plus that I've been in the field, I have heard folks, and I'm going to be really specific, folks diagnosed with some kind of thought disorder, like schizophrenia, for instance. Right. And I could think, like schizophrenia, the hallmark symptoms are delusions, which are fixed false beliefs, and then hallucinations of some sort. So they experience stimuli like seeing things or hearing things, or even sometimes tactile, or they smell things, taste things, that it's internally driven, but it feels like it's coming from the outside. And so what we typically do is, they've done some studies on this stuff. When you're working with folks that are experiencing these things, it's not a great idea to try to convince them that it's not happening. That's usually just upsetting to folks. And so what we typically do is try to just be present with them, try to empathize and be supportive. And I could only imagine how, I remember working with folks who thought that they were, that somebody was out to get them, for instance, right? So they're paranoid that, whether that's a spirit or that's the government or whatever is out to get them, and how frightening that must be for them. And so supporting them in that and finding, well, what can we do to help you be functional, right? But in the moment, we wouldn't argue that with them or try to convince them that it's not there, because like you said, it's their experience, and they're experiencing the world a little bit differently than what we are. Yeah. And some people are aware of that, by the way. Some people will say, did you hear that voice? Or I think I'm hearing voices. Yeah. And so they do have some awareness, but then there are other folks that just don't have that awareness, because it's so real for them that you're not going to convince them otherwise.
And I laugh because being somebody that has abilities, that's what can be crazy too, because some of the things you're describing happened to me. And it's not, I mean, like literally I can carry on conversations with things that aren't there.
We were talking, you were on the phone, but we were talking off camera. So I asked Bill, what his beliefs are in the paranormal. And that was one of the things. Did you say it was your ex-wife that had?
Yeah. So I my take on the paranormal is I'm no expert. That's not my area of expertise. Right. But I've been around long enough. I was telling Jeff that when early on in life, I was like, I just didn't believe in anything that I couldn't, like, very scientific. So I'm very much into the cognitive behavioral. And so I'm very data driven. It's what I can see. If you can measure it, you can manage it. Those are my kind of things. Right. And so, but I early on in my career, I ended up working probably about a decade and a half with the forensic population and treating convicted sex offenders. And when I did that, I went to all these different trainings with some of the FBI profilers, some of the original folks that kind of profiled these serial killers and folks that did serial sexual crimes and those kinds of things. And in studying with those guys, one of the guys, Roy Hazelwood, if you're ever interested in looking up one of his books, he's passed away, but he has some a couple of really good books about this. Hazelwood is Hazele Wood, and I think that's right. At least in my head, that's right. It's close. It's like Hazelwood. But anyhow, he talked about would you just talking to us as we were in this discussion about like, would you ever use a psychic? And at the time I'm like, nah, I would never use a psychic. That wouldn't be helpful at all. And he said something very interesting to me. He goes, we never, in the FBI, we never turn anyone away, because he goes, I don't know. I know that there's enough things out there that's beyond my, beyond human knowledge. Right. And once you open your mind to that, and I would agree with that. There are situations, and I was going to mention, so it kind of opened my mind, that, and the fact that my first wife, we had 3 incidents which kind of really kind of freaked me out. The first one, we were 17, so she was my high school sweetheart, and we were out camping in central Ohio, and she wakes up in the morning and she says, you have to go call your best friend Gene. She didn't say it that way. You got to call Gene. He was my best friend at the time, and still is, actually, to this day. And he said, he's been trying to call you. His mom died last night. We have to go home. You got to give him a buzz. And by the way, I'm old. There was a time before cell phones, and so there was no cell phones, right? So she was like, we've got to go home. And I'm like, that's not even funny. Don't say that. That's not cool, right? And she's like, no, we got to go home. And sure enough, we get home, and it freaked me out, because as soon as I get home, there's a note hanging on the door. As soon as we pulled up in the driveway, and I could see it. I pulled it down, and sure enough, he said, I was trying to call you. Give me a call. My mom died last night. So that was kind of a little odd. Then the other one, we were house hunting a few years later, and we pulled up on this older house, and I'm like, ooh, I don't know if I want to live at this house. It was out in the middle of nowhere, out in Wood County somewhere, and the outside of the house just didn't look very stable. It was a very old house. I'm like, oh, and she said,
we do that all the time. We drive by and say, that's haunted.
I'm like, ooh, I don't know. Well, anyhow, my wife at the time, Lisa, she says, she was like, hey, she goes, it looks much nicer on the inside. And I'm like, oh, you've been here before? And she's like, no, I'm just telling you, it's much nicer. And then she proceeds to tell me down to the color of the wood, or of the dining room, like the wallpaper, and how it had this wood, like half of the wall was wood, half was, and this was a pretty old house. She even told me the layout. It was creepy. And when I walked in, she was exactly correct on that. And this was before Zillow and, the internet. This was, and I don't believe she was ever there. And then the third thing, unfortunately, was that she was she had told me years before that she's like, I think I'm going to die young. I know that I'm going to die young. And so my wife, God love her, she was a wonderful lady, great mom, but was really awful at bills. She spent more than what we could afford to pay. But the one thing she paid was her life insurance. She always paid her life insurance. And unfortunately, about 13 years ago, as she was driving home from work, a guy hopped up on drugs, blew through a stop sign and killed her.
Jesus.
And so like I've had that experience where that's outside of, human knowledge, right? I'm not sure how to explain some of that she just had that gut feeling, and it didn't happen all the time, but there were a couple times that kind of popped out. It really did kind of open my mind. I don't know what that is. I don't know how to explain that, but I certainly think there's something out there that I don't know about, right? So,
and obviously this isn't going to be your thing, but the paranormal field needs more people like you. Like, you started out as I'm scientific, but you've opened your mind to the possibilities, and because we have the opposite end of the spectrum where everybody's like, oh, what was that noise? It's a fucking demon. You know what I mean? Like, pardon my language, but like that's the two opposite ends of the spectrum that really need to meet if we're ever going to find the truth. In my opinion. So,
and I would think, for me, I'm an older guy. I'm well into my 50s, and I don't. In my everyday experience, I don't experience things like that, right? Like, those are kind of rare, but I don't, I try not to poo-poo things because I don't know. Right. And so I think with age, I'm wise enough to know that there are some things outside of what our knowledge is. I don't know exactly what to call that. Right. So, but for the most part, I'm in the realm of what I can see, I can do something about. Right.
Definitely, there's a couple things I want to hit on before we start, opening up questions to the panel. So one big problem too in the paranormal field is that we've got a bunch of fake exorcists, clergy, and like I told you before off camera, that like we can tell people like you should probably get checked out medically and mentally first, and then we'll proceed, blah blah blah. But they will find a group that will tell them, yes, you have a demon in your house. How dangerous is that to somebody that truly has a mental disorder, to be told that, confirm that, yes, you have a demon or you have an evil spirit following you around or something like that? How bad is that for folks?
Well, I don't, to me, it sounds like somebody's getting taken advantage of. That's what it sounds like to me. It sounds
There's
like
a lot of that.
I don't know if people charge to do these kinds of things, but they're charging them. They might be, taking advantage. And that's one of the problems with folks with severe and chronic mental health issues and that do have thought disorders. They're oftentimes victimized by people and taken, advantage of in either financially or in other ways. I mean, I'd still do a lot of home visits in the work that I do. And, I've gone into houses before with people that hear voices and have, had these fixed false beliefs, and go into their home. And I remember going into one place where there were like 2 or 3 couches and they were full of guys. And I'm like, hey, who are these people? And he's like, I don't know. They just come into my house and they eat my food and they take my money. And he didn't know who they were. And I'm like, so people could be taken advantage of.
Oh, yeah.
As far as like harming them psychologically, I don't know that I could say definitively, yes, this is going to be harmful, or no, it's not. What I do know is arguing with them isn't helpful. And we usually don't confirm either. What we do is we focus on the affective or the emotional side of it, and try to connect with the person, build that relationship, be that trusting person that can help them learn skills that, even though they are experiencing hallucinations or delusions or whatever, that we can help them live a fulfilling life and live to the best, their best life. And despite the fact that they're experiencing those frightening thoughts and images.
So, we featured in our last video, we featured a segment from, she's in the chat right now. Her name is Heart Investigations, where her dad was a very religious guy, a paranormal investigator, and had convinced her stepmom that she was possessed by a demon for years. And her stepmom actually unalived herself.
Oh no!
Because of that. That's why I asked, like, is it dangerous? Like, there's just the taking advantage of people, like you said, it's sick.
Well, and so here's the thing with mental health issues. Some folks are more vulnerable to having suicidal ideation. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that on YouTube. I don't know if you'll get censored.
I think it's the S word that YouTube doesn't like. We prefer unalived.
Okay. Well, having those thoughts, thoughts of self-harm, thoughts of not living, folks, we do see that, folks that have, that are diagnosed with schizophrenia, for instance, there's a really high number of those folks who have those kinds of thoughts and actions, unfortunately. And so if you're working with, or also though, somebody, really what you're talking about is hope, right? So and that's what we see, one of the highest risks for people is if they don't feel there's any hope. So if somebody convinces me that I'm possessed and it's never going to get any better, and I buy into that, I might lose hope. And when you lose hope, you feel hopeless, helpless. That's oftentimes what leads to thoughts of self-harm. And so that can be dangerous for sure. And in that circumstance, it sounds absolutely horrible that somebody was taken advantage of, and even makes it bad. It's bad no matter how you put it, but it was a loved one.
Yeah.
It happens all the time.
I know. And that's why people don't understand when we do residential cases, it's not like we go and immediately go and do an investigation. We get to know those people. And just by even usually just talking to them that first time, that gives them some hope that, okay. Right. And then the more we talk to them, it's like, okay, maybe. And so the longer we talk to them before we're like, okay, let's go ahead and meet in person. Let's go ahead. But then they feel more comfortable asking those, when we ask questions, they're more comfortable to give us some of those details that we can say, hey, okay, by what we're looking at, maybe you need to see your doctor and maybe see if there's something else going on before we go to the next step. And they're more willing to do that because you gave them that little bit of hope from that first one where you're like, well, we don't think we don't know what it is, but we don't, we want to work with you, which that makes sense.
And we've heard this so many times when we interview people. If I got a nickel for every time I've heard this phrase, I'd be a billionaire. You're going to think I'm crazy, but, and then followed by something. It's like, no, I don't think you're crazy. Right. There's a lot of, and I'm sure in your field too, a lot of compassion needs to happen when you talk to these people. You can't, absolutely. So if they say you're going to think I'm crazy, but I saw whatever last night, and you go like, oh, Jesus Christ, here it goes again. That's not the way to handle it.
Right. Well, and I think what you're pointing out there, we're both in a very similar, position, because we're in the relationship business. I mean, I tell folks that all the time is that if you are going to help somebody, and I don't want to get too academic and bore your community, but there's a gentleman called Carl Rogers, and he came up with person-centered therapy. And his whole thing was, if you want to make a difference in somebody's life, you have to do just a few things. One, you have to be present with them. Two, you have to be empathic. And three, you need to give unconditional positive regard. That is, you have to want what's best for that person. And when you do those things, if you spend that time, that undivided attention, you empathize with folks, and you're not telling them what to do, you're not being judgmental, you can connect with them. And that's really a big piece of what we do on the mental health side. And it sounds like that's a big piece. And you're absolutely right. If you started out with, or you have that big reaction where you're like, oh, that's, startling or whatever. And then you suggest that they do something, they're probably not going to take that very well, versus if they feel that you care about them because you genuinely care about them, then they're more likely to go, you know what, maybe that's not a bad idea. Maybe, Jeff and Dana recommended that I go see my doctor. Maybe I should just go check in with them.
But so much of YouTube paranormal, and that's a blanket statement. They like to, okay, you've reached out to me and you've told me stories that, like, that's some scary stuff. Things are flying across your room, this and that. So we're going to come into your house. We're going to interview you for 2 hours. Then we're going to investigate, and then we're going to make a video, and we're going to have all kinds of crazy shit happen. That's what goes on YouTube. That is so damaging to people. And then we're going to put demon in the title. This, family haunted by a demon. The night we almost died. They title this stuff like this. There's no aftercare with these people.
No.
There's none of it. And it, like, that that's my bugaboo, Bill.
And
Yeah, absolutely.
If you want to piss me off,
yeah, because
that's
there's
how to do
been
it.
so many cases that we've had to come up and clean up.
Yeah, we do after. Oh,
The aftercare that we've had to do, it's just it's stressful sometimes because it's like you see what these people have done and what a lot of times then it is that they just needed to, there was something with a medical change or a medication sometimes that's all they needed, or they were depressed.
Yep.
And that's as easy as it was, but they tell them other things and it's like it's a shame.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I do think, like I'm just thinking and just in general about some of these folks that you're working with. And, I believe all behavior is communication. So when so let's say that somebody, maybe they don't meet the criteria for a mental health issue, but they maybe they have some kind of an experience, whether it's a true experience or something of their imagination. They're reaching out to somebody because they need something, right? And so maybe that's just somebody to listen to them. Maybe that's somebody to support them.
And
but
someone to say
they're asking for something.
We have a case like that.
Yeah, and someone that just like doesn't say you're crazy. All of a sudden, if you listen, like you said, all of a sudden the ghosts go away.
Yeah.
Like honest to God.
We literally have had a case like that. Luckily, they have not contacted us in quite some time. Yep. But I mean, literally, they have a lot of issues going on in the home, and it was just like basically they just wanted us to go and listen. So it's like, and we go and we do our little thing. And we just go do our thing, and then they leave us alone for a while. So it's like, okay, and a couple years later, we'll get a call again.
Yep. There's that need to connect. All human beings. I want to be careful when I do general, but for the most part, human beings are social creatures, right? We want to be connected to other people. And so if you're alone and some people, whether they have mental health issues or not, some people are kind of stuck in the house and, they're not connected to folks. And so this is a way to do that. As far as your those videos that really tick you off, Jeff, that sounds like the old clickbaity YouTube, algorithm thing, right? Where they're trying to suck people in and
but if you're the family, because there's one channel in particular that I'm referring to, they don't go to them that this is what we found in your house. Their first seeing what happened in their house is what they see in the YouTube video. So if you're the family and you see that demon caught on camera in my in their house, they're freaking out. Yeah, because they're already scared to begin with, and it's just
and now you're saying there's demons in my house, and
they don't understand that what they're doing is for money. Yeah, I mean these channels are making money. They're making lots of money.
Well, it's exploiting somebody, right? And so that's not that's obviously that's the opposite of caring.
So we're gonna open it up to questions in the chat here, but I want to ask you one more thing before that. So
sure.
With your background and knowing that there are paranormal people out there, what is there anything that you can say that we can do better to get down to the nuts and bolts? Is this paranormal? Is it mental health? Like, is there what should we be looking for? Like when we're interviewing these people?
That's
a hard question.
That's a hard question. Here's a big old book full of mental health diagnoses to what to look for. You know what I would suggest to you is I think you're on the right track with the relationship building. That's number one, and get to know the person. And if you have a concern with them, that you do what you've been doing, which is to redirect them and encourage them to either go to their doctor or maybe seek a family doctor. A lot of times, I mean, if they could be a great resource. There are other great resources too. Here in our area, there's various NAMI, NAMI, National Alliance for the Mentally Ill. It's a great organization. They do a lot of education. It's all nonprofit. It's for free. There's support groups and stuff like that where people, maybe they just need more information or they need to engage with somebody. That might be a good resource as well for folks. But I think what you're doing is great as far as being mindful that there's a possibility that they might be experiencing some kind of mental health and kind of ruling that out first. And of course, if you do see extreme, something you could recognize as impairment, that is, these folks are so frightened, for instance, they won't leave their house, or they won't go back to their house. They're living out on the street instead of going back into their home. Or, you see like, oh, this is a big disruption in this person's life.
We had a case that it lasted for about a year. For about 5 or 6 months, this guy was so afraid of his house, he would walk the streets at night
and
in the freezing cold, like in the winter.
Yes.
We're not talking,
and not in a safe part of town
it's
where he was at. It was just like crazy that he was doing that.
The stuff we've seen is just, it blows your mind, and normal people don't understand that. Like, it's so guys. Go ahead and put a Q in the chat. I'm going to let you talk, Bill, but I want to get some questions.
Yep, I know 2 people had put them in there, and I'm not scrolling back. So if you want to ask those questions
re-ask
again,
them if you've
go
already
re-ask them, but put a Q in front of them so I see them. Yeah,
but that's a sick, when your home is supposed to be your safe space, and when you are afraid to be at your house, that's a problem.
Yeah,
I hate that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah, that would be that extreme, and when again, and I work with folks that typically experience a lot of symptoms and a lot of impairment. And so we see that if you're seeing their lives are upended because of whatever, I would recommend that they check in with their doc or seek out some mental health or acquire more information to see if it's right for them.
And you guys deal with a lot of addiction issues and things like that too, correct?
Yes, we do.
That's another thing we've encountered quite a bit. So
yeah, there's a lot of, well, and I think drugs and alcohol, obviously they have it can be so challenging for folks. A lot of folks have both mental health and substance abuse issues. Oftentimes the substance abuse issues are meant to self-medicate. They're meant to help try to escape some people will smoke weed or drink so that they don't hear voices, right? And so I think it's and then that causes more problems, right? So now you have multiple problems going on. We have a dual diagnosis program which actually specializes with people that experience both addiction or substance use issues and mental health, and they kind of work those things together. It's a pretty comprehensive program that does both. So
that's a powder keg of issues. I mean,
it is. And some of those things can cause symptoms, right? So some people will, unfortunately, everything seems to be laced these days, right? I don't say everything, but a lot of street drugs are laced and they have a lot of different things going on. And so we have seen some younger people smoking what they thought was just marijuana, but it was laced with something else. And then they start having psychotic features, right? They start hearing voices and seeing things. And so it's pretty dangerous out there.
And that's actually another question I've had too, like for a long time, and this just kicked up from what you said, but how many, like, there's a lot of drugs that will continue to, even if you're not doing, like, say shrooms, and maybe I don't know crap about them, but like you can have an experience later on in your life, years after you've stopped taking
them. Sometimes you can have a kind of an after effect. Oftentimes it's usually within a period that's usually close to the time of the use. But I have heard of some folks, having a high stress situation, and then that is kind of there, right? Like they're experiencing some psychosis, but it's rare. Most folks that experience psychotic features, right, like hearing voices, delusions, it's usually late teens, early 20s, and usually you don't see it after that unless there's something we're missing, some kind of a neurological issue. Drugs, can bring it on. It can be drug induced, but most people, if they're going to experience, that altered thinking, it's usually late teens, early 20s, usually by 25, 26. If you haven't seen those things, you're probably not going to, which is a good thing, I guess, in some ways. But it can be so crippling, that schizophrenia in general and all those psychotic diagnoses can be so crippling for folks. Really challenging.
So Candy, one of our fantastic mods, is fooled me with the Q. She says, not a question, but thank you, Bill, for being here, and thank you, Jeff and Dana, for having this discussion. Like, this is important. These are the kinds of things that in the paranormal we should be talking about. Not, I went to Pennhurst Asylum and I captured this. I mean, we need to talk about things like this because this is real talk. I did want to ask you this too, and I'm not seeing a lot of questions from the chat, but they are enjoying the show. I don't know if you can see the chat.
Well, I was going to say, Phantom Files on, is it Florio?
Floreros, yeah.
Florero. So self-medicating your whole life and then quitting drugs and alcohol can trigger stuff too. Absolutely correct. Oftentimes that's like, when you're self-medicating, you are masking the symptoms of what it is, right? It's escape and avoidance. So, and when those drugs and alcohol is taken away, now all of a sudden I've got to deal with those symptoms. I've got to deal with those issues, and it can be really tough. And so absolutely true. That was a great comment. And so it really is. And I think that's where those dual diagnosis kind of programs where they work both of those things at the same time can be really helpful.
And she's got a fantastic channel that I discovered like recently, and it's like, she's real talk. I mean, that everybody go check out her channel if you haven't yet. If one of our mods could put her channel in the chat, that would be killer. So we do have a question from Raven. How common is hallucination for people that don't have those kinds of mental issues or drug alcohol problems? Is there anything else that can cause hallucinations?
Great question, Raven. Yeah, that's a great question. Yes. So psychotic disorders in general, about 1%, 2% of the population. But if you are using a drug of some sort, of course, that can cause certain drugs can cause hallucinations. But you asked if there's anything else that can cause hallucinations. And there is. Most of us probably in this chat at one point in time in our lives have had a hallucination. I know I have.
Fevers.
Could be fevers, but it's actually something more common. It's
yours
sleeping.
is food.
Huh?
It's sleeping. Yes,
His is meditation. He's sleeping and
dude,
meditation. He freaks out.
She puts on her meditation stuff to listen to at night sometimes. The dreams that I have are crazy. Another thing, the patch. The
nicotine patches freaking him out.
I am having insane dreams.
It's kind of
because I'm trying to quit smoking them on the patch, and it's like, wow.
Do they have these? They have these types of when you're sleeping, like when you first fall asleep and when you first wake up, hypnopopnic hallucinations, where if you've ever had that sensations where you jump or you incorporate something into a dream and it seems so real and you wake up suddenly. That's a type of hallucination that is very common for people.
Yeah, and we talked about that because I said with me, I do a lot of my visions come that way, and I have those type of reactions. So it's sometimes hard to decipher, was it this or was it that, because of how it happens to me.
The dreams that I'm encountering with the patch are weird. They're like all like it's just stress. Like it's normal situations typically, but like I'm golfing and I can't find the club that I want to use. And it seems like it's going on for a half an hour. Like it's very, very stressful and everybody's making fun of me. And it's some crazy stuff. Friday House has a question. Some who see things that only they can see feel it so real that telling them otherwise could be an issue, maybe even dangerous. How would you approach that situation? Good question, James.
Yeah, that is a great question. Again, I think I don't know that I would address the, trying to tell them that they're right or wrong necessarily. If you feel as though, but I will say this: if let's say the hallucination is maybe getting them into a dangerous situation, and so we've seen this where somebody is so delusional or not delusional, but so experiencing their internal stimuli, right? Hearing voices, seeing things, where they can't take care of themselves and it's dangerous. And I give you an example. And I try to change these up so nobody can, these are amalgam situations. They're real stories, but for confidentiality purposes, I always want to make sure that nobody could say, I think I know who that person might be, even though my stories are probably 20 or 30 years old. But an experience where a person was so caught up in their hallucinations that they left the house in the middle of winter when it was like 20 or 30 degrees out, about a foot of snow out, and was running in and out of traffic and was not wearing any clothes, were completely naked, and they were running in and out of traffic at nighttime during rush hour. Because here in Northwest Ohio, it's pitch black at 4 in the afternoon, it seems. But that would be an example where you're like, you know what, we have to do something to address that because this person's in immediate danger. Otherwise, if they're not in immediate danger, they're able to take care of themselves. I would not recommend trying to convince them otherwise that, this is right or wrong, or you are seeing that, or no, you're not seeing that. But rather, I would approach them and ask them, how does that make you feel, and what's your experience, and we can talk about it.
Yeah.
Without you can validate their feelings without validating what they saw or didn't see.
Yep.
Right. So
that's
the approach I would go.
And like we said earlier, so many people just want to talk and not be judged. If you give that vibe that you're judging them, that's when they shut down. And but if you could just have some compassion and listen, that goes a long way with people.
And I would also add in here, when we're talking about we're talking a lot about hallucinations and delusions and things like that. But there's a cultural aspect to this too. So like things have changed over since I've been in the field 30 years ago. There were a lot of folks with tattoos and piercings back in the day. We would have said they were doing self-mutilation and self-harm. Today, in today's culture, those same people we wouldn't diagnose, we wouldn't say that at all, right? That's just because the culture has shifted and changed. So you also have to consider their cultural beliefs. Like for us diagnosing, we have to consider cultural beliefs and some of that can play a part. And also sometimes, if somebody experiences something, it doesn't necessarily mean that they have a mental health issue. Again, I want to remind you have to have that cluster of symptoms plus impairment in most cases.
A lot of times, like in my experience, so like if I'm really, I guess, cued to the possibility that it's mental health, is let's say like there's a family of 4 and only one member of the house is experiencing a haunting. And everybody else like believes them, but they haven't had anything happen to them. It's like, okay, that's probably what we got going on. We should look into that. But so we have a question from Kalandra. If someone doesn't think that they have a problem, is there anything you can do to help them realize that they might need to seek help? This is not even in the paranormal. This is a general.
This is a great question. This is if I could if I had the answer to this one, and I kind of have an answer, but it's probably not one that's going to be as helpful. But we see this on the therapy side of things, where people will actually recognize I do have a problem. They'll show up, but they really haven't made that decision. They're either experiencing a lot of apathy. They're like, I don't know. I know I need to do something, but I'm not sure I really want to make that change. And so we see them at a stage of readiness. They're just not there. And there's different levels of this. I think what you're talking about is what we would call pre-contemplation, where somebody doesn't even recognize they have a problem, right? In general. Right. And so oftentimes what we do on the therapy side of things is to kind of compare and contrast. What is it that you want to have happen? Like what would you like to have different in your life, and what's keeping you from that? And that's kind of the line of questioning. So you're not saying, hey, you've got a problem, you better go get help. Yeah. And I like to give this example with the person who experiences maybe a substance abuse issue, right? So imagine, I will call him John. John has been arrested 3 times because he's driven drunk. He's going to go to jail. Like the judge is on him. His wife is leaving him because he's been drinking way too much. He's going to divorce him, and he's lost another job. And he'll tell you, he's kind of in that mindset. He'll tell you, well, the reason I keep getting arrested because the cops and the judge don't like my family, so they're out to get me. My wife was a lot more fun when she was drinking, but she stopped drinking, and now she's kind of a drag. So hasta la vista. And the people at work don't understand that I'm in sales, and you have to sit down and you have to have a drink with people to convince them that they need to make the sale. And so they have a reason why, right? They've kind of constructed this kind of reality that they just don't see, that maybe the problem is me, right? Like maybe I do have an issue, and that's hard to see. So, kind of asking them, what do you want? What do you want anything to be different in your life? And if so, what's keeping you from it? And oftentimes they can get to that point where they're like, oh, my wife is leaving me. I've lost 3 jobs and I'm about to go to jail for DUI. I might have a drinking problem. Yeah. And I actually just had a client just recently do that, where not exactly that, but said, as I'm saying this stuff out loud, I might need some substance abuse treatment. I'm like, well, here's a referral. Here's somebody who can really help you with that. It's not
Yeah,
my
so
area of expertise.
no
But
one's pressed you to say it out loud before to where you realize what's going on.
that's right.
Right.
But I can tell you what doesn't work is trying to shame people or
Yes,
trying to insist or even give advice. Say, I'm going to tell you what, oh, this is what you should do. This is what I would do if I were you. Instead, it's better when people can come to it on their own.
And I've seen some commercials too that really highlight some you would think are basic points, like how to talk to people that are going through, some kind of mental health crisis. Well, why don't you just get happy? Things that people say that don't understand it. Like, I mean, just stop thinking negative. Like
Right.
they'll make comments like that. And it's like, you're doing so much damage to these people. So
And if
I'm
it
glad
were that easy, everybody would do it.
Yeah. But I'm glad things are being talked about in today's society that like, should be just, it's not even, you don't even have to put an effort into to contribute to helping people. But
Right.
we do have another question.
Yeah.
Other than support, how do you recommend addressing a person's belief in the paranormal activity if there is a suspicion of a psychological cause? Are there any scripts that could help?
Well, I love scripting, but I can tell you, because this is such a specialized, I mean, this is really what the conversation we're having tonight. I mean, really combining mental health issues and
Yeah.
paranormal
Yep.
together.
Yep.
I don't have any scripts off the top of my head, or I'm aware of it. I think this is a really unique, one of the reasons I wanted to, I was really interested.
It is kind of
with Dan and Jeff.
a niche.
It is a
topic.
niche. It really is.
Yep.
But again, yes, I would suggest that you would be supportive. And I wish I had a script for you.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie to you and tell you, oh yeah, there's lots of them out there. I think that would be, if you have a background in mental health and you have this paranormal experience, that would be a great niche. I bet you that would be helpful for folks. But
I'm looking for people like that.
Yeah. I mean, it would be very, I think you'd probably want somebody who kind of knows both of those things to do that. So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you see Sky Talker's question?
Yeah.
I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce those words.
Says, do I educate people on hypnopopnic dreams and sleep paralysis? I typically don't educate folks on. It's not my area of expertise, but I'm aware of them because I've had them before. And I'm like, what was that? And I've had other people report that they've had that experience as well. My area of expertise is not sleep disorders and the psychological issues surrounding sleep. The reality is, so my area of expertise actually these days, I probably had 3 different careers over the years. I've had one where I primarily worked with people with thought disorders like schizophrenia. That was actually my entire caseload. Then I had a while where I was in the forensic area, where I worked primarily and almost exclusively with sex offenders. And these days, my area of expertise is, and I hope that I retire on this one, is anxiety disorders and OCD, because that's what I really am passionate about. And so I don't do a whole lot with sleep. That is in and of itself. There are folks that actually study sleep, and there are therapists that specialize in, I think it's called CBT-I or ICBT. It's insomnia, cognitive behavioral therapy, and they focus on that specifically. So I don't want to tell you that I'm an expert in something I'm not, and speak out of turn. Probably the breadth of knowledge and depth of knowledge that I have on hypnagogic and hypnopopnic hallucinations is what I just shared with you already today. So I've used my $25 words.
There you go
for this evening.
Paid. Cha-ching. Go ahead and show the next one. Have you found a correlation with autism and thimerosal? I don't know what that is.
Yep. So
is that medication?
That is not my area. I would not be able to talk about autism with any kind of. I wouldn't trust me to give you an answer on anything there.
Okay, so let's go to Pomp's question. This is, this may be a couple more guys. So if you got them, get them in. Advice to someone who knows they have issues, but their public image stops them from asking for help because they think they will just get brushed off. Yeah,
that's a great point. So this kind of comes back to, I believe, comes back to kind of stigma, and so my suggestion, I see this all the time. I actually sometimes I'll have doctors or police officers or veterans that they do not want their insurance companies to know they're coming to see, because there could be, in this case, it's a public image, but it could be, it could change the way that they do their work. And so I try to work around that with folks, so that there is no records, so to speak. I mean, there's a record with us, but not with insurance.
But which, isn't it ironically funny, because it's supposed to be HIPAA, but yet it gets back to your employer because of insurance. It gets back. That makes me so mad, because it's like that you're violating HIPAA by your employer knowing, because they go through insurance.
That's right. And so for that person who's experiencing that, and they're concerned about their public image, I mean, that is a decision. I think kind of leaving that up to them and letting them make that choice of, what are you willing to risk here? The reality is what weighs more for you? Is that that public image, or to get better? And in theory, if the person does go to get help, my hope would be that it's confidential, right? Like nobody should know. Now, I know insurance companies know, and somehow like if you get your insurance through an employer, they can see the claims. I mean, I believe that to be true, but they're not supposed to be able to release that information.
Yeah, right.
And so, most, I'm obligated to confidentiality, right? So if somebody comes in my office, one of the things we do is we alert them and let them know that everything, I like to tell folks that it's sort of like Vegas, but for real. Everything said in here stays in here. Can't release any information about you to anyone without your written permission or consent. Of course, there are some provisos. If somebody tells me they feel like hurting themselves or somebody else, I'm a state, I have to get them help. I have to tell people to make sure. But
we've actually, as part of the Warren Foundation, we've had some instances where, people were telling us that they were on drugs, and the demons are telling them to, shoot their wife. We definitely call for welfare checks, and those people don't like it. But it's like, I can't hear you say that and not do anything and then have it happen. Like, it's probably not going to happen, but what if it does? So
I'm under the same. Yeah, by law, if somebody kept saying, I'm hearing voices that says I should kill this person, right, or I should harm this person in some way, I'm definitely got to do something, right? I got to keep them safe. I got to keep the community safe. And so I think there's another question here about hallucinations.
Go ahead.
Are there any ties between astral projection and mental illness? Not that I'm aware of, but I can tell you. So if somebody came in, and this is, again, if somebody has some ability that's outside of my knowledge, and they came in and they said, I have this thing, but it's not impairing my life, I'm not having an issue with it. Okay. So you're good to go. Where I get concerned is where, okay, I've had this ability, and I'm not able to go to work because of this ability, or I'm not getting sleep, I'm not eating, I'm not, it's impairing my ability to function in some way, shape, or form. But that I see a correlation or that I'm aware of in the research or the literature about specifically astral projection and mental illness, not that I'm aware of. But there are, when we look at schizophrenia, for instance, there are different subtypes. Well, technically not anymore, but we look for things like persecutory delusions or thought insertion, or they call it bizarre. So it's that would fall under bizarre, because we can't. It's like they're saying aliens are picking me up, or you know what I mean, my uncle is Bigfoot or whatever. And I've heard some of this stuff before where you're like, okay, they would classify that, the professionals, we would classify that as bizarre, especially if it was impairing their ability. And I met their uncle, and their uncle wasn't Bigfoot, right? So.
Really? Can you prove it? I'm just kidding. So Bill, we promised you an hour.
Yes,
that's what you
flew
said.
by.
Yep. We're probably going to go longer, everybody, but do you have time for this last question?
Sure.
And then we will let you go.
Let's see here. Do you have any advice on dealing with narcissists? Oh boy, narcissists or anyone who trying to control other. Okay, so personality disorders can be very challenging if you know somebody that's and so Boy, that's like a workshop. That's not a real short answer, because narcissism.
This is going to take you into an hour and a half.
Yeah,
I mean, to answer that question.
And again, I have a great deal of empathy for folks with personality disorders, because it's so ingrained in who they are, and narcissism is one of those. Like, narcissistic personality disorder. I guess you could be narcissistic without the personality disorder, but a great deal, because there's a great need to have control and to have things work out a very certain way, and so you get this kind of these manipulative types of behaviors. And that's not, when I say manipulative, that's not to no pun intended, not to demonize the individual.
Yeah.
But it can be very, very tough to be in a relationship with somebody that's experiencing that. And there are some great books out there. And I'm blanking on the resources that I would send you, but the internet is full of information about narcissism, and I would encourage you. NAMI, again, is another great.
I wrote them down. I've been taking notes since we've been talking.
Let's do this last question, and this will be it.
It'll take you over.
Caroline's will be the last one, because this is.
So this is a great. Oh, I'm glad this question came up, actually. So, dealing with somebody who had suicidal ideation, but will not seek help. Okay, so this is what I do is I take all ideation seriously.
Yeah. And
as a trained professional, we have an assessment that we would do to kind of figure out, does this person need to be hospitalized or not? And the type of care that they can get. Sometimes they can get care in the community and it's good enough. But other times they need more intensive care. And so what I'm going to tell you is, if you have a loved one or a friend or somebody that you know, or you yourself are having thoughts of death, thoughts of ending your life, seek help immediately. Do not wait. That's one of those things that is preventable if we get you the help. And here's the good news about folks with this type of suicidal ideation. And that is in most cases, if we can interrupt that in a fairly short amount of time, those thoughts start to fade and go away. And so the motivation goes away. But it's so important, if you're experiencing that in the moment, that you reach out and get help. For us here in the States, that means, maybe it means calling 911. Maybe it means going to your local ER. In what certain counties have crisis, they have crisis lines for mental health crisis.
Are those pretty good resources?
I think so. My experience has been there. I've heard very good things. In the local area, Unison runs the crisis line, the mobile crisis line in Wood County. We 5-star reviews. So from everybody.
Good.
So, and we have a mobile crisis team that actually goes out. If you call, we come to see you wherever you're at, even, and we'll do an assessment there and see what you need. We even have a crisis stabilization unit. So it's not quite a hospitalization. It's voluntary. You're like, I need more support, but I don't want to be involuntarily hospitalized, right? Yeah. So they can come to our CSU, and if they qualify for that, they can come in and stay there in the community. So, but Lucas County, it's my understanding they have a pretty good one as well. And but in some rural areas, or for people who are outside of the U.S., you'd want to look into what you have available in your area. But our local emergency, worst case scenario, is call 911 and tell them you're having these feelings. And for us, by the way, in our local area, ask for a CIT team, a crisis intervention team. These are police officers that I actually help train, that get specialized training for crisis situations for people that are experiencing a mental health crisis.
And I will vouch for that, because I know Lucas County Sheriff's Department. I've had to deal with them with my brother. There's 2 of them that know him very well, because that's who they usually try to send out. If there's something going on, and even to any of their houses, because they are well aware of what's going on with their developmental disabilities, and they do a great job. They do amazing job of de-escalating them and getting them what they need. So
absolutely, this is important too. And here we're going to let you go, I promise. But a lot of people did have questions that we just couldn't get to. I mean, I'd like to have you on maybe again some other time soon. But is there any place that? So she's saying, any suggestions for others that still have questions, where to go to get answers? Or what are some good resources that people can ask, people like yourself questions and actually get answers?
I'm going to go refer back to NAMI. NAMI is a great place to get information
and that's
about
here
them.
For us.
That's
is that
NAMI?
That's a nationwide organization.
Okay.
Yep. Now, outside of the U.S., I'm so sorry. I think I heard that there's somebody from
Yeah,
Australia.
there's a lot of
I don't
people
know.
overseas here.
I don't know those resources, but we have the
Mhm.
National Alliance of Mentally Ill, and
Okay.
I don't know if they're, if they're outside of the U.S. or not. But you can go to the website. You can ask questions there. They got resources that are. In fact, there's a. Well, I'm gonna promote them here for a minute. They have a walk in May coming up that kind of helps fund them, but you don't have to pay anything to go. You can just come and walk and support. NAMI and
I've
like
actually
awareness
done that before.
walks,
I've
or-
done that walk before. So
you get sponsorships to walk, and
Yeah, exactly. And
What-
so
can you
so
send
Unison,
me that info in the
I
email?
sure will. And we
Thank you.
actually, Unison,
We wanna participate.
we're sponsors of the NAMI walk because they're our partners in the community.
I'll be
we have a
the guy
team.
that's in last place. I promise.
All
you.
right. Well, it's not a race. You just
well,
walk.
like I said, we're willing to help promote that,
Yeah.
especially if that gets
Great.
out there and
Yeah, love
get
it.
people
I'll
out
send you
there.
the link to that.
Yep.
And
Yep.
I tell you what, for folks that are interested in getting more questions, I'd love to. I mean, if you're interested, be happy to come back and chat again.
Yeah,
at some point in time.
I've been wanting to do this show for
a long
years,
time.
and we finally found, like, you're an actual professional in the field, and a seasoned professional, and this has been fantastic. You are answering one of my questions as well as people in the world of YouTube.
And I just saw somebody was asking about NAMI. It's NAMI.
NAMI.
Feral Girl put it in there.
Yeah.
Feral Girl's from our neck of the woods, so
Yeah,
she knows.
she has some ties with the Collingwood Art Center, so.
Oh, wonderful. Excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah, neat.
But anyway, Bill,
Very cool.
we appreciate you joining us so much. This was, a 10-minute hour. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, it went
Yeah.
fast for me. It was a lot of fun.
Yep.
And again, thank you so much for bringing mental health awareness
Yeah, it's
to the
important.
community and
it's
with your
very
audience.
Well, we
Appreciate it.
said it's nice now that we have a connection. So, no, if you guys come across stuff,
Yep.
you
That's
guys
right.
have someone to come to. And we now have somebody else that we can be like, hey,
That's
what
right.
do we do about this?
And guys in the chat, give us a heart if you think Bill is not the best dressed.
somebody told him
we've
he should
ever had
loosen up his tie.
So,
It was funny. Somebody was like, loosen up the tie.
Well,
yeah, we normally
for-
like.
As you can tell, we're very casual.
well, for the record, usually at this time of night, I'm usually pulling it off, but I actually saw some clients this evening. And so, it's like coming straight home from work and
Gotcha, man.
hopping
We
on with
appreciate
y'all. So, but
Well,
thank
we
you all
appreciate
so
it.
much. Appreciate you all and great questions. You guys have a great community. And again, thank you so much for that charity drive that you did several months ago into your community. We absolutely so appreciate it. Thank you all so much. So be well, and hopefully I'll catch you guys again real soon. Give me a call.
Yeah.
You guys have my number. You can give me a
Yep,
call.
I gotcha. So,
We'll
sure.
set something else up. Appreciate you all.
yep. And so we're staying on live, but we're going to say goodbye to Bill. And
everybody
again, we
hang out with us.
appreciate you coming on with us.
All right.
Bill-
Thanks. Take care, everyone.
All
Bye.
right,
Bye-bye.
see, Bill, I'm gonna kick you, but just hit leave studio. So, oops, he said we'll do it. I bounced him early.
All right. So
So
that
that
was
was-
awesome. I'm
I do
glad
have
we
to go
did
pee, but that was a
Okay.
fantastic guest.
So I hope everybody enjoyed having Bill on. That was like I said, we've been waiting to do that one, and we're glad we finally got somebody, especially because it was tied into where we did our fundraiser for, so that made it even better. And we've made a great connection for our community where now we can like I said, if they have questions about somebody coming in that's saying stuff like paranormal or they just can't figure it out, they know they have someone that they can reach out to, as well as we can reach out if we have something that is like, okay. But then there's also things that we can help to promote for them as well. So it's kind of a win-win situation for everybody, especially when it deals with mental health. Because we're having... I will say right now I'm having an issue with that with my brother. And so it's made my mental health not the greatest right now. So it's a huge, it touches mental health affects everyone. It doesn't matter what income you're at, what neighborhood you live in, what schools you go to, where you work, what kind of job you have. Mental health, it's just really important to know that mental health affects everybody in some way, somehow. and that you really need to, it really needs to be addressed. I am so glad that we were able to do that. It's just, I mean, like I said, right now I have a lot of it going on in my life. So it's just been really, so we said it was kind of funny that we were talking about this because I just spent the whole day dealing with some mental health issues with my brother. So it's just like, okay. And Jeff's coming back here.
I'm going to smoke a little bit.
No,
What do you mean?
no, get back here. He was going to try to get out and smoke. He can wait. So hopefully everybody enjoyed. Like we said, we will try to get, and with his schedule, it is a little bit hard to get with Bill. So it might be a little bit before we can have him back on, but we will try maybe once or twice a year to have a chat with Bill.
But I really have, like, I've wanted to put together for so long, a list. There's got to be people like him that I know ethically and legally, we'd have to figure out how that works. But there's got to be a way that some of these people can, even off the record, let's say it's a black ops shit, they can look at a case and say, yeah, you should recommend that this person seek some
But
help.
I mean, I understand because it's
and I get it too because it's so regulated. And
Doggy's turn. I'll be right back.
But the the field is so regulated, so there's so many hoops and shit to jump through that, like, they've got to protect their license. I totally understand that, but even medical doctors too. Like, I'd love to get some of their thoughts on some of the interviews that we've done with people because, drug combinations, so many different things affect how people perceive that, that was paranormal. But man, goddamn, that was great. I really enjoyed talking to him. I'm glad we did. I definitely want to have him on again. There were so many questions that we apologize we didn't get to answer that came through in the chat, but we only had him for an hour. I mean, this guy, worked a full day, and yeah, this is a true statement too, from Mr. Joe Frankie, who, Joe, I'm sorry, but Biff beat you in views. I'm just like, don't hurt yourself, but Biff had more views than you did.
What are you doing, Boo?
Most of these so-called investigators need mental health evaluations. That is very, very, very true.
Well, we did that once. We had a bunch of people on, and like, I think every single person that was in it was all paranormal investigators. Every single one of them had said at one point they had some type of mental.
There are a lot of people in
mental.
And I'm not okay.
Here.
We're trying to get rid of the headphones because we don't need them anymore. But there's a lot of people I've noticed within this community that have issues, and I'm not picking on anybody or saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying that the paranormal tends to draw people that may have some, OCD, PTSD. It draws people like that, and I've always wondered why. It's. Oh yeah, Cree, thank you. Yeah, we hit 3K subs this week. Yay!
Finally,
big milestone. And the thing is too, so yeah, we've gotten shout outs from channels and help from channels and whatnot, but we never got like a big boost at one time from a channel. So I'm noticing people are going back and watching our older stuff. Like, you'll see a new person pop up and then they'll go back, they'll comment on an old video.
Yeah.
In addition to the new video that you watched. And so we're, it's been really, really cool here for the last year. We went from 40 to 3K
in a year.
In a little bit more than a year.
Yeah.
We started late November.
Mm-hmm.
Was the first video that I put out since we started to say, hey, we're going to focus on this.
Yeah, because when we used to have, before our Facebook got hacked, we had a Facebook that we were, we did, and now.
So this is for us. So we have a place called, sorry, I didn't, go ahead and finish.
So we used to have a decent following there, but then once we decided Facebook wasn't going to be the route, it was going to be YouTube. And so then we ended up going YouTube. And
we were old people.
Yeah. So it was like, woohoo, once we hit the.
Yeah. So Goth Gal, that's something I might look into. That's
Yeah.
that's interesting to know. And this is obviously a local thing to our area, but I might have to check that out. And paranormal investigators should do research on mental health stuff. I mean, they should be doing that. There's a lot of stuff they should be doing research on. Doesn't mean they're an expert about it or anything like that, but they should have some knowledge of.
But this is ironically funny too. Sometimes I think it's good if you have like, and then you're not going to have this. I mean, we're fortunate, like on between the two teams that we have that we work with, ours and then Togue's, we have two people that work in the in the medical field.
Yeah.
So we're a little bit more aware of kind of what to expect and kind of things to look out for. And so that is sometimes a perk because I mean, there's been times where it's been like going in and seeing medication. It's like, yeah.
And I'm going to be honest, I'm not going to lie. Like if we're investigating your house and we do an interview, I will go into your bathroom and look through your medical.
Well, we, for instance, had one that, a case that we were going to that Jeff, they did not know Jeff was bringing somebody with them. And we think they were getting set up to do something to him because, and I got a bad vibe, especially when you start seeing medication bottles that have everybody else's name, but anybody that's in that house and what was in those bottles. And it was just like, bad vibe, let's go. And sure enough, I'm sure something would have happened because that guy was so irate that he left without him coming to meet him. He was
pissed. He was like yelling at me on the phone. Joe brings up a good point too. So someone with mental issues can also have a haunting going on. But my thing has always been, and I'd like to credit Joe and others that I've learned this from, that you have to deal with the physical world before you deal with the, so you've got to deal with the mental health problem before you go into the ghosts.
Yeah. But before you even sometimes go through the mental health or the addiction, you have to, you have to see physically what's going on because some people might have, like I said, a lot of times we've gone to houses and the medication, they've been on two different doctors prescribed two medications that contradict each other and can cause a lot of issues. And those people have gone and they've talked to their doctor and they're like, oh crap, nobody knew. Now it's a little bit harder sometimes with the new medical systems like Epic, where you can go from one area to another and you can share. But sometimes people go to doctors out of different networks and they don't realize that one person prescribes this, but then it's also going to pharmacies. They might go to a pharmacy here for this and a pharmacy there for that. And the insurance never picks up on it, which insurance you would think would pick up on it too, but they don't always do.
And Calandra, it's not just being a Sherlock Holmes too. One of the thing that has really helped us a lot, we know a lot of people that know stuff that we don't. And so like if you have a good core of people that that like, okay, you may encounter some, Native American stuff. I know nothing about that. But I know people that know a lot about it. So like that helps too in doing this residential case stuff is having a good group of people that you can use. But so many teams have such an ego.
Yeah.
That like they know everything about everything. Like we heard a story about a guy that locked a skinwalker in a closet in Wisconsin and told the guy, don't open the closet because the skinwalker is in there. He opened the closet and let it out. And now it's wreaking havoc on the neighborhood. It's just, what the fuck? So we were going to have like a birthday party tonight.
Yeah, we were, but
this is an important topic. I am so, this is a show that I've wanted, like, honest to God, I've wanted to have a guy like Bill on for a long time, and we've never had one. So,
who's saying hello, everybody, again?
And dude knows his stuff. Like, and if he doesn't know, he's going to say that's not my
Well, it's funny because I've talked to him a couple times now, getting ready for the show and that, and like we've shared so much. And it's like, oh my gosh, this is what we experience. And I mean, the knowledge that we've just learned between each other, just from that little bit of us being, just talking, and it's like, wow, I mean, we can actually help each other trying to figure out things. So it's it's been kind of nice. So
yeah, it would be. How odd would it be if like they had somebody come into them and seek out like say a mental health problem or the suspected, and they're like, you got nothing wrong with you. You should go check out this paranormal team. I doubt that would ever happen because they got licenses but I'd be honored if they ever asked us for some kind of consultation or something like that. That would be kind of crazy. Does anybody have any other questions? I know, guys, I apologize that we didn't get to all your questions with Bill, but we had him for an hour, and I had stuff I wanted to ask, and sorry, but it's my freaking channel, so I was going to ask first. Just kidding, not being a jerk.
Yeah, but this is Jeff's aftermath of his birthday party. So
yeah. I was gonna go live that night, but then Joe had already scheduled one, and I was like, "Oh crap, I gotta cancel it."
You can tell everybody he got something special because he got his favorite chocolate eclair cake. I made that for him, so he can have which
I had for dinner last night.
Yeah, and then but I also made him a pasta dish, which if people know me, I hate pasta. And so for me to make him a pasta, and he loves pasta. So for me to make a pasta dish for him, he has to be special.
Yeah, I should have been Italian, that's for sure.
Yeah, because
Just Pomp out of here. See you, Pomp. Thanks for joining.
But Jeff just loves his pasta, and I'm just like, I could go without it.
If I was my spirit animal is Garfield.
If we could eat pasta 7 days or
not 7.
You could eat pasta almost 7 days a week with different types of sauces.
I don't know.
Because
I like a steak.
No, because you sometimes make noodles. So noodles and pasta, you would eat those 7 days a week.
I mean, mac and cheese. Does that count?
See?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I like a steak. I like grilled chicken.
Yeah, you like the meat, but your side you want pasta a lot of times or noodles. So.
I want mac and cheese with my steak.
Yeah, and I'm like, I'm not usually if he's gonna want pasta, I usually will eat a salad.
Joe, you missed the professional. We're just a bunch of the usual goofy bastards now. It's just us. But everybody, if people are just joining, go back and watch the first
beginning.
Hour.
It was awesome.
Good stuff.
Like I said, we'll have to bring him on. Like with his busy schedule, though, it might only be able to be like maybe once or twice a year. But
he did say he'd do it again because I think he enjoyed himself too. So I mean, it's fantastic. Very, very good show.
If you guys could see Boo right now, she's looking and giving me the dirtiest look.
Oh yeah, she's pissed.
I don't know why. I fed them like this container was pretty decently filled.
Look at the time.
They were eating. Well, it is close to bedtime.
Yeah, it's bedtime.
Too, so.
That's her problem. She's pissed off. It's bedtime.
Well, I came home and what's this one? Did you stay for my live or did you leave? I made you a mod just in case I have any problems too. Was that to us or?
Okay, I'm trying to think. I stayed for the bulk of it. I know I got distracted by something at the end, but yeah, I stayed there quite a bit. If that was even to me.
I don't know. I saw the big cues because somebody paid attention.
Yep. I did not foresee any problems happening if I were to step away for a little bit and get distraction. So sorry, Bill. Alyssa has a good comment.
Yes.
If anyone is struggling, please reach out to anyone. You can also reach out anonymous. Yes. Like he said, those crisis lines seem to be pretty good.
Yeah. And this is crazy because randomly weird. Sometimes I wonder if like I said with us, a lot of times when we have people reaching out or we're like their last hope because they've been to so many other people and people taking advantage of them and telling them things, then we get them and just us listening to them, it just helps. I mean, for instance, we've had a more recent case that it seems that we've been able to get them at ease and they're not freaking out but they're comfortable with us at this point as well.
Like even Bill, our guest, said, it's about relationships. I mean, like you never get the full story. So these teams that go in there, Paranormal Nightmare, and do an interview and then do an investigation and then put out a video, they're not doing shit because most of the time it takes 2-3, 1 to 2 hour interviews with these people before they even start telling you the truth. Like, you ask them about drugs, they say no the first time. The third time they say, well, I do shrooms sometimes, or I'm like things like that surface. And because they're more comfortable with you, they know that you're not judging them. Hang on, there's one about the UK
that he was asking something. So this
I think Calandra is a she.
okay.
But we need to investigate. We need the investigation dream team that we consulted. Yeah, but not Kenny Biddle though. Let's not give him that much credit. I'm just kidding. I love Kenny Biddle, but I love to harass him too.
Friday, he kind of did touch base with that because he's had an experience with an ex-wife that was kind of, so it's like it's got to be something if he can't explain it, so. Or if it can't be scientifically explained.
Yep, he said he started out complete scientist, skeptic, all that stuff, but then throughout his life, he's been kind of like, that's some weird shit. I can't explain that. And with his wife and some
do you ever
abilities.
think that someone might do something if people think? So this is a kind of a question. So.
Health and not paranormal. No, my opinion, I think it's worse the other way around.
That's what I'm thinking, but I mean,
if you jump to paranormal
first,
and it's mental health, and then you can't solve their paranormal problem, they, sometimes they give up hope. Like, okay, well, nobody can help me with this ghost because it's still here, but it was never a ghost to begin with. It was in your head, and I think that is the bigger problem than.
The worst thing we've ever had is that we had, we did have someone say that got upset because what they were experiencing was not paranormal. And this was the first time we ever had an issue with this. And it's the last time because we educated ourselves and learned what we should do the following time. But we had someone that truly we were trying to be as polite as possible to let them know that there's not paranormal going on here. It's all some kind of mental issue going on, and the person really got upset with us. Granted, they never did anything to themselves.
We've got kicked off of a lot of cases because we don't co-sign to their bullshit.
Yeah, they want us to immediately, right. And that's the thing. Some people think that you can just it's a quick fix. And then if you come to paranormal teams, it's not going to be it takes forever for them to do something. Because we're learning about the person, we're gaining their trust, we're learning and seeing and experiencing what they are telling us, and then so we can but the main thing is we're gaining their trust, so that they feel comfortable enough to tell us everything that is going on.
And how many people have been mad at us because we said, look, you don't have anything demonic going on. We've had people pissed off, like, bullshit, you don't know. Yeah. It's like, no,
because they've had so many people come in and say it's demonic, and then it turns around and it's not. And
this is a very frustrating, part of the paranormal is the residential side. It's very frustrating.
Yeah.
At times. Would 2-ply say?
Where'd 2-ply
go? I don't know. But yeah, that's a good point. That they just want evidence and views. They don't give two shits about helping people. Paranormal nightmare. In my opinion, we got to say that just to keep ourselves from getting sued.
I don't care. Okay, trying to.
So you guys looking through the chat. Last thing, check on those in your life. Sometimes the happiest do struggle. Yeah, I've had times in my life where it's like not been good at all. It's not been good. I may have told that story before, but sometime I may tell it again. Tonight probably be a good night, but I don't feel like it. That was a very, very bad event. Oh, Bill, this is the same chair I've had for the last year.
Yeah, he's had that one for a while.
It's my gamer chair. I'm going to be honest with you. I need to update. I need to get some kind of butt pillow, though, because I need some more padding down here. If they truly believe it is paranormal and now someone is calling them crazy. See, and that's the hard part, is how do you get them to look at seeking that route without sounding like you're calling them crazy? That's the hardest part. Yep. Miss Boo is like, hey, what's up? So yeah, that's difficult. And that's where that like
Could
Bill
you
said,
stop?
you got to be compassionate in how you talk to people. It's building relationships, and you know,
Mm-hmm.
then it doesn't come across as you're calling them crazy. I'm not sitting lower than Dana. She's closer,
I'm closer.
and I'm
See, because if
kind
I
of sitting down.
sit back where he's at, so and
Yeah.
plus I do sit on a pillow, but that's the only reason I sit on the pillow is because it's there.
But yeah, she's like way closer to the camera,
Yeah.
and
So I always look like I'm. It's just the way. It'll get better once we move the office to the back
we'll have more
room.
room. Yep. Yep.
You guys have been off the hook tonight. You guys have gotten so many treats.
I've seen so many people get seriously angry in some premieres as the bunkers are verbally attacked. Then it's well, yeah, I know people will say that. Like, so in our recent encounter with people that we're not going onto this Biff topic, but I have called him crazy, insane, all this stuff. He probably is, and I kind of feel a little bit bad about that. But I don't feel bad about calling him a fucking asshole.
Stop it.
I don't.
Nothing.
So, yeah, but we're not going there tonight. So
nope.
If you ask a question in the chat, we're not doing it. No, Cal H, that's why I have back pain. It's my back pain that I have is causing me to hunch over. Is Two Ply possessed?
I don't know. Well,
I haven't even seen him in here. Is he in here?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
He's right there.
Okay.
Duh.
Gotcha. Two Ply, did you get
You
attacked
even
by?
said something earlier to him.
Yeah, but I didn't see him. It was somebody that mentioned him because everybody likes to talk to Two Ply. I don't know why.
His Discord is very chatty.
Two Ply is freaking hilarious. That's where everybody wants to talk to him. Ouch, god damn it.
Yeah,
I hit my funny bone.
As people know, I'm like social, just because I have so much stuff going on. I've taken a little hiatus from social media or any of our social content. So basically, Jeff's been in charge of checking everything. So.
But it's too, guys. So I do want to say this often because I want everybody to know. If people send me a message and I don't reply, it's like it's because I missed it. And maybe even I saw it, but I didn't like. I got to think about the question that you asked. But then I get distracted by something else.
But the only thing is, if I know, like, if I get an alert that something wasn't, that somebody's still waiting for a response, all I am telling Jeff is you need to go look at it because right now he is going to. The only thing I'm going to do until I feel like I'm up to it is just doing the lives.
In Discord is the absolute worst way to reach me. I'm just telling you right now because there is, that's like a marriage. Like that's a commitment.
Yeah, that's why we have a couple people that watch that one for us, but we're not very active in it, because people requested us getting that Discord. So that's why we. Yeah, I mean, we try to go in there, but like right now, I just had to step back from everything.
I mean, I go in there, but we're definitely not as active as other ones.
Yeah, it just right now, like I said, I had if on my Facebook, and I didn't put anything on YouTube, but I pretty much, I don't think I put anything on YouTube, but I did put it on Facebook and in our Discord that I'm just kind of backing off for a little bit, and Jeff will be handling.
And with our last video too, we're getting messages from a lot of people saying it. And how many messages did we get from that one person yesterday? Over 100,
probably.
It had to be,
and it wasn't. It was somebody else.
Yeah,
and
it wasn't. It wasn't Biff. It was
somebody else, and so it's just been like, okay. So at this point, everything.
I haven't even looked at it. I don't have time.
We don't have time, and it's just being ignored. I mean, they're just, it's like whatever, and it's there.
And the cool thing too, I have to say this, it's a cool problem to have. Like I'm not trying to, I don't have time for the common fun. Like I'm not.
When it gets repetitive, sending us the same stuff, it's like, okay, we just need to stop, because I mean it gets to be an interruption during the day where you can't.
Yeah, we both have full-time jobs. So.
Yeah. Lately I seem like I have 3 full-time jobs, and it's just
So if anybody has,
crazy.
if anybody has come in, go back and watch the first hour of the show. If you want to, the topic, we definitely talked about it. He was here, and it was awesome. Oh, you're choosing violent. Oh, you're hopefully you're talking about a headache, and you're not going to go out and beat people up. I'm just saying.
No, her head is choosing violence right now.
Okay. Well, my head chooses violence. I want to go punch people.
Yeah, it can be kind of confusing.
Yeah, I don't fully understand. Boo, you need to stop. She is such an attention whore. It's not even funny.
She's been lately. She's just been off the hook.
I guarantee, even if we weren't live, if we put these mics in this position, she's just going to be a little.
Well, lately, even if we just both are sitting right here, she's been coming in like being harassing. Do you want to come back on?
Boo is very, very much loved and spoiled. They both
come
are.
on. Yeah, they ate about 20 pieces of these tonight. Come on. She's like, you don't got to treat from
the problem is it's bedtime.
Come on.
And that's the
there we
current
go.
issue.
Well, they didn't get their normal mom time right after I got home, so I had to pretty much jump right from here, coming in the door to here. So,
Boo is a choose me girl. She is a choose me girl. She very, very spoiled, center of attention.
All the time.
Severe separation anxiety.
But so, as you see her right now, who do you think she loves more? You can say, does she love Jeff more, or does she love me? Yeah. Say, who do you love more?
You love your mom.
Who do you love more? Do you love Papa or Mom? Yeah, I know.
All right, guys, I'm starting to see people dropping out, so we are going to take the clue that we're boring and.
Oh, so this is our dogs. They're like in tune with me. So, Bubba, he actually trained himself to tell when my blood sugar drops. He actually alerts in the middle of the night because I have issues with blood sugar dropping.
Bad dog.
So he actually and Boo actually does it occasionally. She actually will also alert. Do you think I could convince people my wheelchair is possessed? It runs people's feet over. Nothing to do with me. Well, you never know.
Just say if you don't believe me, watch Sam and Colby. God dang it. Okay, you sent me. I will play. I'll check it out. Oh shit. See, that's another thing. He sent me a video to watch. Like, I feel it's probably been 2 weeks ago, and I fully intended on watching it, and I didn't because I got so wrapped up in other shit. And I got to try and put out a video myself because you got to go at least for us every week or two.
Yeah.
And if I don't get one out this coming weekend, like
what you doing? You don't need no more treats.
The pressures. But
no more
do you want to wrap it up?
Yes,
right.
I'm exhausted. I've had a
right in the door talking on the phone and to sit down in the chair and go on live. So
I still haven't finished my breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Yep, I haven't eaten my eclair cake for dinner yet tonight. So guys, thank you all for joining. If you guys are new here and didn't see the first part, go back and watch the first hour. That is the meat and potatoes of tonight's live. I have homework not for our channel too. Yeah, I've got homework, lots. I'm way behind in everything. But go back and watch that first hour.
Yep. So yeah, because I hope everybody enjoyed that, and it's great that we'll be able to bring him on.
I loved it.
Again, yes.
Yep, that. I've been wanting to do this show for a long, long time. I wish we had him for 2 hours, but hey, I'll take the hour that we got. So.
Oh, and we did because we asked him because he told us he was coming. And we asked him if he wanted to go more, and he goes, an hour probably should be good, especially because this was his first time. So.
Yep, he probably didn't know what to expect.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm getting on with these fuking ghost hunters. Like, what
am
I getting myself into?
I told him we can cut him off at an hour. We can do an hour and a half. We can do 2. I said we normally go 2 hours, but if you just want to do an hour, so next time he might be open to doing an hour and a half.
It was a good first date. He might spend the night next time. Just kidding.
He might
just
be
kidding, Bill. If you're still watching, we're just joking. That's what we do on this channel. So, everybody, peace out. Good night. Thank you for joining us, and we loved it.
All right.
The awkward ending.